Before I get started with this story, I have to give a shout out to my patron on Patreon, Jason, for sending me this story. Now, this is more of an update to a story that went viral last year involving this black man that you see on the screen by the name of Vaughxx Buck. I was about to call him Vaughxx Booker. Vaughxx Booker, who was the black man who was in Indiana who was almost lynched on camera by these inbreds that look like they came straight out of The Hills Have Eyes. And I actually talked about that story when it happened because it happened in July, excuse me, of last year. And many of us main complaint to him was, why was he the only black person out there with all them PC people? We already know how that all ends up and how a lot of that goes at the end of the day. The fact that they were bold enough to record this of an attempted lynching says a lot, but that's just how bold they are. But this man has literally been going through it in a multitude of ways since that occurred, mainly starting in August. Do you know that back in August of this year, this guy was actually charged along with the people that was involved with his own lynching? Involved with his lynching? Like they hit him with criminal charges. They hit him with criminal charges only in America. Now it gets even worse because apparently this guy had raised some money through a GoFundMe account. A lot of money, a good decent amount of money. I think they said like $36,000. And then because of that, he ended up losing his access to a public defender. Like he was given one, allowed to have a public defender. But then when the judge found out he had made some money through the GoFundMe, they rescinded on it. And they basically saying that now he has to go through other avenues in order to have representation for his case, or he's going to have to go the extra mile and represent himself, which might not be the best thing to do. It's hard to do self-representation if you really don't know the law like that. And I'm not saying that he does or if he doesn't, but that's a risk that he would be taking. So this guy's literally backed into a corner. Like imagine you are being charged with you're being criminally charged with your own lynching. Then second, you lose access to a public defender because the judge found out you had raised some money through a GoFundMe in order to help you out with bills and everything like that. Because based on the article I had read, it said that this guy was unemployed. Like they said he said he only had like $500 in his bank account. Like he was unemployed. He wasn't working because you know what happened last year kind of like affected his finances. And he got money raised to him, sent through donations via a GoFundMe. And I believe they said it raised around $36,000 plus. And when the judge found that out, they decided to revoke his own his representation for a public defender. What I'm reading right here says a special prosecutor in August charged 38-year-old Vaughxx Booker with battery resulting in moderate bodily injury, a felony, and misdemeanor criminal trespass. And the reason why they charged him is because he was fighting back against the people that was trying to lynch him. Like he was actually fighting back. This goes back to how black people, when we defend ourselves versus when they do it. This guy was about to be lynched and we saw it on camera and he's fighting back, and they charge him with all of this, including the attempted lynching of himself, and he loses out on a public defender, all because he raised money. Like basically they are letting the people that did this to him off the hook, and he's being put on every meat hook in the meat locker. They said that Superior Court Judge Lance Hamner ruled in favor of the Monroe County Public Defender's Office request to deny Booker a public defender earlier in the month. They said two men, Sean Purdy and Jerry Cox II, were charged in connection with the incident weeks later. An Indiana Department of Natural Resources report later found that Booker should also be charged. So he wasn't even charged initially. They decided to just throw him up in there. And also be charged with battery and trespassing because he allegedly punched Cox and Purdy and returned to the private property after being escorted away the first time. So that's where the trespassing part comes in, because they say he went back to quote unquote private property. But on the part of him defending himself, they actually charged him in that because he was defending himself. Like I said, only in America can a black person actually get hemmed up like that, fight back, even on camera, and they get charged. Like it stated in this article, he wasn't even charged with anything initially. They decided to charge him weeks later after those two guys were charged. And I'm seeing more, and when I'm looking at the pictures, I'm noticing that there's way more than two guys there. There's more people, but they only charged them 2, because I saw it was 2 guys and it was quite a few women that were there too. But let this be a lesson to him. Don't be the only black person there. Like I always say, that never hardly ever ends well, is whenever you are the only black person in the vicinity when it involves PC. We have seen that over and over again. Now, when it comes to the trespassing part of, the part about the private property, now I can see if that's private property, he went back, then okay. But to charge him with everything else, that's ridiculous. They say he received more than $36,000 in donations through a GoFundMe following the publicized altercation. And they said that the public defender's office filed a motion earlier this month suggesting Booker may not meet the definition needed for a public defender because of the money he collected in a GoFundMe, basically saying that goes against, because when it comes to a public defender, you have to have made or not made a certain amount of money. And he only did that because he needed help paying the bills, because like I said earlier, he only had like $500 in his bank account, so he needed the assistance. And it's like, boom, here you have a public defender, but now we're about to take it away because we heard about your GoFundMe. But the GoFundMe most likely wasn't even for the public defender, it was for other things. So now he's literally hanging out to dry. And it says that he can now either request that the court review the decision to deny him a public defender, and hopefully he can get another one, hire his own attorney, which is probably going to cost way more than a public defender, because a public defender is something that's awarded to you by the judge, basically free, like basically for free. And then the only other option he has is to represent himself, and that is a risk. That is a huge risk. So he's literally stuck between a rock and a hard place. When I tell you that is some BS, I mean just that. Like, that's crazy. Like, this guy is going through it right now. But, online, I think they have drafted up some petitions or something like that. But who knows what's actually going to come of it. Because either way it goes down, this guy is literally stuck in the middle of crap on one side and crap on another. But I hope that he's able to pull through and get everything in order despite everything that he's going through. Y'all let me know what y'all think down in the comments.